It's nice to be back to do the July 16th TRT rice summary. It's a pleasure always to be able to talk with you guys briefly each week. I just got back from McLean after sleeping about 5 hours from the Dallas rice meetings. So a lot of my focus this week may be on a little bit of politics and what I've seen in these meetings. So with no further ado, first I want to congratulate France and Croatia for their entrance into the World Cup finals. In some ways, I'm very happy that the World Cup finals will be next week. It'll be rice trade and get back to normal with calls being made and people answering them more. But I know it's been a great journey and a lot of good games that we've seen as well. With that, I would say it's been a very interesting week. In my travels, it kind of highlighted some of the political issues we're seeing. Clearly, the world is very active. President Trump was in obviously Britain this week, and there's a lot of discussion with the Brexit and what's going to occur and how the U.S. is going to trade. Is it going to be with the UK or is it going to be through the EU? And this is one of those interesting points as we look at politics, which is a great place to start today. On the same time, the U.S. Trade war with not just China but almost the whole world right now is really affecting the global industry, especially the U.S. You're seeing 25% tariffs in Turkey against U.S. rice in Europe, and Europe is retroactive, and this includes licenses. You're seeing in China, which is interesting because there's no access for rice to China, and this is affecting not just rice but the overall grain trade balance. In fact, some of the rice professionals I've talked to, like grain/rice professionals who are very elderly and have immense context in the global market, have told me they haven't seen some of these signs since the late 80s. And that's a very big concern for me when professionals, our elders in our industry start saying, you almost have to go back to the 80s to see signs like this. And as I've said the last several weeks, I'm already very concerned about the fundamentals in our rice market. You have the highest stocks since 2000, when rice was $200 a ton. This is a significant issue, and wheat has even worse oversupply fundamentals. So there is first the oversupply situation in the overall food complex, which is being highly affected by this political situation of trade barriers and retaliatory tariffs. And I would just say it's one of the most volatile times I've seen in history. In addition, I'm going to go a step further. I've been talking a lot about the U.S. rice futures, and I'm going to make a contention that I think U.S. rice futures are going to go below $10 a hundredweight. And why would I say that? I don't like to make predictions in the rice trader of such magnitude. And of course, with funds being able to play the futures market, this could change what should happen as well. And so this is always an interesting point. But the U.S. rice fundamentals, what we just said, are already been negative, but the politics make it worse. If you look at some of the markets, which our report highlights this week, you've seen Mexico, the U.S. #1 market, down 30%. In some data, more in our data. You're seeing Asian rice, especially Chinese landings into Mexico. You're also seeing Chinese landings into Puerto Rico, which is considered part of the U.S. domestic market. You're seeing various Asian products going into Central America and Mexico. And so what you'd expect to see is starting to occur. Again, if I look at the export prices for the week to tie this in, the U.S. is still quoted at about $600 a ton, and you got Thai 5% at $375. $225–$200 a ton difference between Asia is just too high. And you're going into the point where the U.S. has a 20% bigger crop plus. It's just an extreme fundamental situation made worse by immense political interference. So I would not be surprised to see $10 a hundredweight rice as the U.S. comes to the Asian markets. And there's people in Asia that are telling me they see $300 a ton possible next year. It will depend on the crop size for sure, but you definitely are seeing this type of weakness in the market. But for sure, U.S. rice fundamentally is massively overvalued. You could even see $8 a hundredweight. So definitely, that's my thoughts. You're just seeing a lot of demand being taken away from more Asian type customers. Also Uruguay and Paraguay have been very active. And these tariffs are really destabilizing the global trade. So a very, very fascinating time. What else would I say about the market? There really hasn't been a lot of change outside of this key U.S. market, which is really ignoring the World Cup, to be fair. There's been a lot of focus in the U.S. again on the Farm Bill, and a lot of activity in the U.S. where there's been less so globally. Really the only price change I've seen is in Pakistan this week with a reduction of about $20 a ton, $10 a ton on the lower qualities. Still, Thailand being at $375, it is by far the cheapest origin, and the quality just is so consistent and great that we continue to believe this is a great buy for the world players looking for rice. How long can Thai stay at a discount to the global market being this high a quality is a very good question. And in the end, maybe they're just leading the way. If they see prices are going to decline, maybe they're just trying to get sales before they decline further. I guess we'll see more over the months go by. And kind of move what we've said before. We've seen demand kind of slow down a little bit lately, where our supplies seem to be increasing. We're still at a record year at almost 20 million metric tons through July 10th, 19.8 million. We're up still 3.76% on the year. It's definitely a record year, but you're starting to see a little bit of slowing in that trade. So we got to see what's going to happen. There's a large amount of food stocks, large amount of activity, large amount of political action occurring, and we just have to watch this market closely in the coming weeks. As always, of course, there's much data and many interesting pieces between what's going on in Iraq and various tenders that are in the rice trader, and I suggest you take a closer look, of course. But also there is a very key report on Africa this week, and of course, as we do whenever USDA updates the report, we do a WASD review, which kind of shows the USDA's views on the U.S. and global markets, and also very fine and detailed data about the U.S. and how are they doing in each market. For all the global traders, it's worth a look, as you can see how those markets are changing. As the U.S. has some real bad quality hybrid issues, and this huge price premium is just immense. I've never seen it in the data. It's maybe a once-in-a-lifetime event that's just not getting as much press as it should. It really could be a once-in-a-lifetime to see U.S. go to this big of a premium for so long. Besides that, I just have to welcome you guys all to the World Rice Conference. Continue to register. My staff says we've had a bunch of registrations this last week. Of course, it's going to be October 10th to 12th in Hanoi, Vietnam, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And soon I have to buy my own ticket that I've forgotten to do up to this point with all my travels. But anyway, I look forward to seeing all my friends there. Hopefully these reports continue to be of help to you. As we say each week, continue to send us samples and interesting things, and I will show them on our weekly summary. I'd like to even start doing interviews with rice professionals, and as always, I appreciate your ideas and suggestions, and look forward to talking to you next week.